Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. It is Friday. That's right, it's Friday. And if you know what that means, it is Ask the Experts. And it is always an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to have our brothers on. First of all, we have Roland Bradley in the building. We have Walter Jennings. You know him very well. And today we're dedicated to answering your questions. So whatever it is that you're going through, whether you're single, dating, in a committed courtship, engaged, married, separated, on the verge of divorce, whatever your situation is, we want you to put your questions in the chat so that we can address it and give you the answers that you need. Really quickly, we want you to like, share, and subscribe. Friday's unique day because it's about getting your questions answered. So maybe there's somebody you know that has a question and you could share this with them. It helps us to grow the community. Also, make sure you download the Couples Academy app. That way you can stay in tune with us and be connected to all the things that we have going on. And last but not least, Foundry, make sure you join it. People are joining and having a phenomenal time in this experience, and we want you to experience that as well. All right, guys, we're asking questions here. We're answering these questions, so put them in there. But Walter, I want to start with you, man. It's always a pleasure to have you. We don't get to have you too much, but when we do, we really enjoy you. And for those that don't know, Walter and his lovely wife, Charmaine, they have a phenomenal show. Matter of fact, tell them about your show, Walter.
Sure, absolutely. So each and every single Wednesday night, we host a show on the Couples Academy Network, which is called Before I Do. And so it shares and provokes courageous conversations regarding dating and relationships. So what we want to do is take a proactive approach when it comes to marriage and relationships. Obviously, the Couples Academy is stellar and a powerhouse when it comes to infidelity recovery and couples crisis intervention. And so what we seek to do with Before I Do is really create a platform for individuals that are dating, that are single, that don't know if they want to be married, that do want to be married, really talking about some of the keys and the strategies and the things that will help them be better prepared as they enter into long-term relationships and marriage.
You know, it's crazy. We just had a couple leave. They did a private marriage intensive. And what I'm noticing is that overwhelmingly, most of these couples don't know each other. They will quickly admit, we never did premarital. We met with somebody and had a 2-hour session, but we don't know each other. And so a lot of the problems that they're having is because they made certain assumptions, had certain expectations, never really had conversation, and now they find themselves in a crisis.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, when it comes to going into a marriage, they, this whole idea that love is all you need. No, you need a plan. No, you need a strategy. And you need to make sure that you, again, are talking about and having conversations about things like finances, things like the culture that you want to create in your home, things like purpose, value, principles. So it is better to make sure that you're having those conversations earlier on before you get married, at the very least, to ensure that you are with the right person that is going to be conducive for the purpose that you have in your life. And so it is, and if you don't, then some of the challenges that we see with the couples that we interact with are a direct result of not doing that prep work.
Absolutely. That's a fact. All right, guys, we're going to dive into some questions. Listen, now, as you know, I'm going to read exactly what you write. So I'm encouraging you, when you write a question, make sure that it reads well, because if it doesn't sound right to me, I'm going to sound crazy when I read it. So I know sometimes we're typing fast, but just do the best you can. Help us help you. All right. First question. Is it possible to have changed behavior without a changed mindset? Roland, I want you to start us off. I think this is a very important question. How would you answer this?
Well, first, you can have changed behavior without a changed mindset. You're just going through the motions. Everything starts in the mind. And until you have a changed mindset, your behavior is not going to be conducive for the mindset change. So a lot of times we show up, we say, look at me, I'm doing something different. I'm doing new things and I'm being better. But if your mindset is still stuck in your old ways, you're only going through the motions. So we have to understand it's a heart transformation. It's a mindset change that has to take place in order for our behavior to show up, to catch up with the mindset. A lot of times we want to do things and show up differently, but we're still stuck in old ways, and that is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help you individually, and it's definitely not going to help your relationship.
I want you to weigh in on this because I know this is something that I kind of want all of us to touch on. So, Walter, how do you respond to that as well?
Absolutely. Roland is spot on. You can have change behavior without a change mindset, but it's not going to be sustainable because it's being done usually out of a place typically of compliance. A lot of times it is done out of guilt. We see this oftentimes, especially when, again, with infidelity recovery, individuals will change their behavior because they're trying to reconcile the relationship or the marriage, but they haven't necessarily changed their mindset and really understood why their previous behavior was wrong in the first place. And if that happens, then it's only a matter of time before you regress back to the mean. Either because your partner is not responding the way that you think they should, because your actions are not authentic and they can see that. And how many times do we hear, I've been doing this for 2 months and my wife is still giving me a hard time? Part of the reason why that is because your mindset hasn't changed in order for it to be genuine. And also it's not going to be sustainable. And the other challenge that happens when it comes to not doing that is that it really just damages and fractures the relationship even more when you're not authentic in your actions.
Absolutely. And we know what the Bible says in Romans 12, 1 and 2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So a transformed life is a result of a renewed mind. So it first starts here. And so that's why we ask those two important questions. What is your willingness to learn? Number one, right? Foundationally. And then what is your willingness to change? So change comes from learning. Learning requires new ways of thinking, giving up old beliefs to embrace new beliefs. And then that's when the transformation comes. So I hope that answers your question. Shelby has a question we want to get to. She says, I have a question. Well, me and my husband started swing and I thought I was going to like it, but I didn't. I end up cheating because I was mad about it and felt like he liked the girl better. And now we've been bumping heads. How can we work that out? I want to go opposite direction. Walter, I want you to hit that.
Sure. So there needs to be a really honest, courageous conversation about the decision that you all made from the very beginning. That's the first thing. So whether it was right or wrong, the bottom line is you need to sit down and share with your husband about the fact that we went into this particular decision together. We made the agreement, but now that we're going through the process of it, I am not happy with the result that we are getting from this. And then there has to be a conversation about how to move forward. You also need to be prepared to be honest about how this is impacting you and how his behavior is also impacting you as well. Obviously, we do not subscribe to the notion of introducing other people in your relationship and marriage for this exact reason. There is always a chance that, again, your heart is going to be drawn, or at least one person is going to be pulled away from the marriage as it relates to their not just their emotions and their feelings, but again, their heart and at the core. So it's going to need to start with a really honest conversation about the fact that you went into this okay with it, but because of the results and what you've seen, you want to go and want to take a different course of action.
And let me just say that there are many people who do come to us in the same situation where they've opened up their marriage and brought others in because they thought that it would bring spice and excitement and thrill. And overwhelmingly, like all of them regretted it. All of them had a hard time really dealing with the pain of comparisons. It creates a significant amount of insecurity, self-esteem issues, poor body image. I mean, there's a long list of things. An affair lands one way, But when you voluntarily bring someone in, it lands a completely different way. And so, I want to be direct and confront with all of you. It is something that you do not want to do. If we're talking about laws that make the body work, laws that make a marriage work, laws that make the universe work, when we operate according to those laws, we always win. When we go against those laws, we always suffer the consequences of our actions and behaviors. Now, you can recover, you can overcome this, but you've got to make a decision that you will never, ever, ever violate your marriage bed by bringing anyone or anything in that compromises the integrity of your covenant relationship with you, your partner, and God. So come on, reach out, set up a discovery call. Let's navigate you through that, because I think we have enough experience to know exactly how to guide you through that process. Roland, I want you to hit this question right here. It says, my spouse says that I don't know how to emotionally to be connected. After that statement, I said that I'm willing to find a group to be accountable to and will be doing Foundry to help me become a better man. He goes on to say, after that, my spouse mentioned that they are not willing to do a marriage small group. So how do I get my spouse to agree to accountability couple?
Well, first of all, I commend you for you stepping up as the man, as the leader, to want to do the work. I appreciate that you are going to step out and make things happen. Once your wife sees that you are actually doing something, and here we go again, your mindset has changed, your behavior has changed, you have accountability partners that help you and hold you up to your change, then she will be more receptive, or should be more receptive, to change along with you. And a lot of times what happens is we're sitting in a cut waiting to see how it's just going to go. I want to see how long it's going to be before you mess up again. I want to see how long can you carry this through. But the fact that you are stepping up and you are doing something different is going to be imperative for the health of your relationship. And so oftentimes we find ourselves stuck in relationships. We find ourselves stuck with other couples that are not moving in the same direction as we are. And that's when you have to tap into that community of being around other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing and wanting what you want. So to see that, you tap into once you join Foundry, you're going to find a whole new community of a brotherhood, a fraternity of phenomenal men, extraordinary men that's going to call you up, that's going to hold you up, and it's going to pull your wife in because she's going to see the difference in you.
There it is. There's no better way to answer that question. Listen, guys, you're watching Ask the Experts. There's an abundance of questions. We're going to get to them right on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Hey guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy. Difficulties, but we're back. We're going to get back into these questions because there's a lot going on here. Man, the questions are popping in. I'm going to go to Stephanie. I think she says, I looked up to my aunt and uncle's marriage because it seemed like an example of the marriage that I wanted. But then I found out that he had been cheating a few days ago, and it makes me feel like this is just, and that's it. But I think we get the gist of her point. Walter, I want you to wait. Oh, here she goes. It feels like it is just the nature of man, and that we should just shut up and keep going with the marriage. Speak to that.
Sure. So first of all, I want to challenge your notion that it's the nature of man, and push against that. It's the nature of humans. and relationships. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be obstacles in every marriage and in every relationship. And so it's important for us, the individuals that we admire, to definitely understand that although it may seem perfect, it may seem great, there are some things underneath the surface that you do not see. So whereas there's not a problem with holding someone as a role model and esteem, but know that there are underlying challenges and issues that you may not necessarily be aware of. So you want to make sure that as you get close to ask those questions, some things they are going to pull you into it, and some things they may share with you, some things they may not, and be okay with that. And so you want to ensure that in whatever relationship that you want to pursue, that you first of all are honest with yourself about what you bring to the table. What are the challenges and the issues and the some of the obstacles that you face as an individual, and be prepared with the partner that you're with to tackle those things, to be together, to be honest about them. But we have to be very careful that we're not holding other couples and other marriages to this precipice, as society would say, of perfection. There is newsflash. There are no perfect couples because there are no perfect people. And so we have to be prepared to do the work. And part of that is understanding who you are in a relationship with. And that is not only the relationship with the other person, but also the relationship with yourself.
Excellent answer. I want to go to this question right here. I want to take a stab at this. It says, what is the difference between a one-night stand and an affair? My husband had sex with one girl 3 times, just sex, no relationship. So that's what he told me. Should I let it go, being that it wasn't an emotional affair? I think this is great because couples oftentimes get stuck when it comes to terminology and word choice. So we'll say, yeah, I cheated, but it wasn't an affair. I mean, I wasn't faithful, but it wasn't like it was, infidelity. Like, we get caught up in these words. At the end of the day, it was a betrayal. It was a betrayal of trust. And when we think about now we can go down many different paths, but if we give you an overall synopsis, there's 4 different types of betrayal. You have the one-night stand, which is very physical in nature. And then you have emotional entanglement, which typically is more relational and can become physical, but not always. Then you have what is called sexual compulsion. That is when you have some type of addiction or some drive that causes you to go out and do what you do. That's very physical. And then you have what is called the open-ended relationship, otherwise known as the marital void. There's issues in the relationship, things that are not being resolved, needs that are not being met, and you have a tendency to go out and get those needs met. So that is a hybrid that can be both emotional/physical. But they're all affairs. And the way it lands for one is different than the way it lands for another. I've known people who said, man, you slept with 25 different people, right? At least you didn't give them your heart. I mean, I don't mind the fact that you were physical with them, but don't ever give them your heart. And then other people who've been in emotional affairs who said, oh my God, like just blown away. So I think that for some people, they can justify certain behaviors. For others, they justify others. But at the end of the day, I don't think that he should minimize, make light of what this behavior was because it wasn't an emotional affair, that somehow that should be more devastating to you. Pain is pain is pain. And he needs to do the best that he can to accommodate you in the pain that you're in. And it gives me the indication that if he could justify the fact that it was only sex, only 3 times, and it wasn't emotional, he may do it again, unless he has a changed heart and a changed mind. And we're talking about how change happens when you change the way you think. And if we don't have an overhaul in terms of the way we think about what fidelity is, what betrayal is, then it's prone to happen again. So to me, it requires work. You two should go work with a practitioner who's skilled to guide you through a process to bring you through a place of personal healing and marital restoration. Anybody want to add anything to that?
I think that's spot
I just
on.
want to it is spot on. And I just want to say we have to stop minimizing our behavior. Like to your point, right is right, wrong is wrong. And so oftentimes we try to justify our wrong behavior to make it right for us or make it right for our situation. And so we need to stop compartmentalizing, stop minimizing the behavior and just own up and man up that what I have done, what I am doing is wrong. Because if not, if you think it's okay, you're going to find yourself doing it again.
Absolutely. Walter, I want to go to you. This is from LaShawn. Guys, I'm so confused. As I said in previous comments about me and my husband being separated but still having the benefits of the marriage, he keeps letting me know that I'm in the friend zone. But in the same breath, he's making all these plans for us. Explain.
Sure. So part of your confusion is coming from the fact that there are no boundaries that you all have established for this arrangement. So you're all over the place. Like a child, you're like the hokey pokey. You're in, one foot is out, because there haven't been any parameters that have been set in regards to this arrangement. And if he has not done that, then it is your responsibility to lead that conversation about what does this arrangement mean for us right now? What are the rules of engagement? What are the things that we are going to do and the things that we are not going to do? And that is not only a couple conversation, but that is also an individual commitment. So you get voice and autonomy in what those boundaries look like. And if he is not leading out that conversation and helping to establish that, then you need to lead that.
Listen, this is a great, this is a phenomenal question. I want you both to weigh in on this. Roland, we'll start with you. This is from Cali Power Couples. What are some tips 3 years since DDay for post-infidelity, for rebuilding and balancing emotional intimacy for the betrayed wife and sexual intimacy for the former unfaithful husband, so that neither feels unapproached? So in essence, the betrayed spouse is looking for emotional intimacy. The former unfaithful is looking for sexual intimacy. They both have needs. How can we manage this? What are some tips that you can give us so we're both getting what we want and neither is deprived of a necessary ingredient in a restored marriage?
Well, one of the things you talk about, the fact of the 3 years past DDay, and we need to take DDay and celebrate on DDay. Let's turn DDay into a new day. Let's turn that experience into something different and make it a new experience. A lot of times we look at those instances and we drag ourselves and make it a bad thing, when that is an opportunity to be even more emotionally connected to one another and more intimate with one another, because we're going to take what has happened in the past and change it to make it something new. Once we have these hard conversations with one another and be more vulnerable and transparent with one another, then it gives us an opportunity to tap into areas that we have found neglected. And then we also have to look at where we are now, where we were, and where we ultimately want to be. And so when we put those things into perspective, it gives us a better chance. We have something to look forward to, because now we have based it on where we are, the growth that we have, and we know how far we have come from. But as long as we can see where we're going, then we tap into that very thing of understanding that we can have a new marriage, a new life, a new relationship to meet each other where we are.
So part
Walter,
of that
some
too.
practical tips.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of continue on in Roland's point that there are various types of intimacy, and I would encourage you to look through the Couples Academy library. I'm pretty sure Hassani and Danielle have a video in regards to the type of intimacy. And so one of the things that I think that can be a practical tip for both of you is for both of you all to explore a different type of intimacy as of right now and building in that particular area. Obviously, your focus is on emotional. Your husband or your spouse is on sexual. Maybe we start with exploratory or experiential. Maybe we focus on the spiritual intimacy right now and working in that particular area. And what that does is it allows you to it allows you to connect intimately in that particular space. And it then allows you to branch off into the other two areas of intimacy where you all are having challenges, but is a primary area of emphasis for each one of you. But it sounds like you all need to start with the neutral area of intimacy, because intimacy is intimacy. And if you can do it if you can build it on the spiritual side, if we can come to a consensus on one area, then we can use that as leverage for the other two areas that we're both primarily interested in.
Powerful point. So I hope that helps to give you some insight. Here's another question. I'll try my best. Good morning. Thank you for your videos. My husband cheated on me 4 years after we got married. The bad thing about it, his middle brother died in the spring, and then he cheated in the fall. Was drunk. Is it his fault even though he was drunk and blacked out during the cheating? Walter, jump in.
Absolutely. And this is not necessarily about fault, but it is about responsibility and behavior. Because again, trauma and issues are going to take place in a marriage and in a relationship. And how we show up when those traumatic situations and issues happen is going to ultimately impact our marriage and relationship. So at the very minimum, there has to be a conversation related to that. Now, obviously, when it comes to the cheating and the infidelity, the fallout that is in conjunction with that has to be dealt with as well. And again, some of those surrounding issues, as far as the brother passing away and being intoxicated, there may need to be a discussion about engaging in certain habits and in certain behaviors. Are there certain environments and things that he needs to avoid? And so obviously this conversation, to your point, is not just about cheating. It's not just about sex, but it is about a deeper issue as to how he may be medicating himself when he experiences trauma. And that's where you want to start.
Excellent answer. Ben Scott has a question. He says, good morning from an icy Nashville. Excited for Foundry. He's joining Foundry. I got my seat. Men, you get your butt into Foundry. Hassani touched on a good point yesterday. We were talking in a conversation, and he would like an expansion on it. He says, my spouse brings up the effort. Hold on. The effort that I put into the affair and verbally compares my effort in our relationship. How do I divert from this thought process? Well, the thing is, the betrayed spouse struggles with comparisons. They're always going to compare because they're looking at how you showed up with someone else versus how you're showing up in the home with them. And it's a natural comparison that anyone would make. Now, obviously, the nature of that relationship was different. It's hard to compare a long-term established relationship to some short-lived, highly intensified, salacious sexual affair. There's a different way that we approach that. But of course, she feels like, man, well, if you could show, and this is a common complaint we hear across the board. Well, man, how is it that you had all this passion, all this energy, you would leave work, travel across town, do all these things, break your back, go above and beyond the call of duty, but I asked you for something basic and you have no desire, you have no interest, you have no willing. And so it does make them feel some type of way. So if your question is, how can you change their thought process? By showing up for your spouse, by overcompensating and filling up the void that has been created in your relationship when you betrayed it. There's a huge deficit. There's a deficit when it comes to trust. There's a deficit when it comes to security. There's a deficit. And you, as the former unfaithful partner, play a major role in helping her heal and working on the restoration of the relationship. So it's going to take work and it's not going to be overnight. We say this all the time. Trust is lost in buckets, but it's gained in drops. So your consistency in doing the right thing over a period of time will begin to shift that process. But it's not like a switch that she can just turn on and turn off. You play a major role in that process. Walter, I'm sorry, Roland, weigh in on that because I think hearing your perspective may also be helpful.
Yeah, so we definitely have to understand, as we say all the time, we have to go all in. We have to go hard in the paint, and we have to make sure that we show up differently. I'm glad and congratulate you, my brother, for joining the brotherhood, going into the Foundry, because it will ultimately change your life. And when you realize that your life is being changed and you're being held accountable and being integral, then you're going to show up differently and your wife is going to see it. But the best way to make sure that you stop comparing or allowing her to compare herself to the affair partner is you have to pour doubly over into her. She has to be the apple of your eye. She has to know that. She has to be dripping with adoration from you and affirmations from you. She has to understand and know that she's the only person that you see. And what happens is when you fill up her empty cup and it becomes running over, she can't help but to notice the difference in you and notice that you see her and not the affair partner.
Hey, Hassan,
There it
really
is,
quick.
guys. Listen, I'm sorry, Walter, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to jump in really quick because this actually harkens back to the very first question when we started the show, when the person asked, can you change the behavior without changing the mindset? And this is a perfect example of that. You do not want to change or put necessarily just the effort in for the sake of your wife. This is about your growth. This is about you continuing to evolve and change as a man, and allow that to be the focus. And when you do that, your lifestyle is going to reflect it, and it's going to make a more definitive impact in your marriage.
There it is, guys. Listen, you've been watching Ask the Experts. Before we close out, I just want to speak to Kenny Burkett. Kenny, you mentioned that you were willing to get accountability by joining Foundry. So I'm calling you up, my friend. I want you to go to the website, couplesacademy.org, set up a discovery call. Let's get on the phone. We start February 1st. It's the first day of the month. It's a Wednesday. And every single Wednesday, we have our Foundry meetings and we have our daily accountability. It will be a transformational experience. She's not interested in couples accountability. No big deal. Take the lead. Be the change that you're looking for in your marriage. And trust me, it will inspire her to get on board. So I expect to see you in the Foundry group. Reach out to us. And to the rest of you, we love you. We hope you have an amazing weekend. Enjoy it. And we will see you on Monday. Take care, guys. We love you.